Welcome to another video, this time about levitation. Is levitation any good, and why did Todd remove it? Levitation is a useful spell for getting into high places where potential good loot awaits. Examples of such loot include the Daedric Pauldron on top of the Ice Castle in Solstheim, which you can probably not get to without using either levitation or at least jump. Another example would be the Urshilaku Burial Cavern, which you visit during the main quest, which has in the waterfall room a bunch of shelves above, which you can only reach using levitation, or again jump. There are many other examples of loot that can only be reached this way, some of them minor, others very expensive loot. Levitation also has a combat use. Enemies tend to run away when you use levitation, at least those enemies who don't have any ranged attack options, such as marksmen or spells.
Let me live!
You can also use levitation to run away. Just beware that levitation, like all the other spells, does have a cast time, and enemies can still hit you while you're on the ground. So don't go casting this while you're almost dead. You can also use levitation on an enemy in order to hinder their movement. And if there's a mountain in your way while you're going towards your destination, you can use levitation to skip going around it. You just go above. Now, levitation also comes with its fair share of cons, and I'll tell you about those right away. It's, for one thing, fairly expensive to cast, and because the spell cost is significant, it's also hard to cast at low alteration levels. I'll go into the exact cost later in the video, just know that it may be difficult to use it with a new character. Levitation is also not very pleasant to use at low speeds. This is walking speed, not running speed, and at low levels. Even running speed may be slow. It is for that reason that it can be fairly unpleasant to cross mountains with it. I know it seems like a good idea, and sometimes it is, but remember, you're basically doing something really boring, and you're not even safe from the cliff races. You don't have to deal with any other above ground creature, that's true, but cliff races are still a thing. You also need to recast levitation every once in a while, and casting spells can fail, which can be fairly inconvenient when you're high in the air, because failing while falling can get you brutally murdered by gravity. Now, there are workarounds for some of those problems. The game includes a fair amount of items that are enchanted with levitation, such as the Wizard's Staff, which is not quite a unique item because there are several of them all over Vvardenfell. You can even buy one from the Mages Guild at a certain rank. Then there's the Boots of the Apostle, the Steel Blade of Heaven, and the Amulet of Levitating, all of which cast levitation. The Boots of the Apostle may be a bit of a bitch to get at low level, but the other two can relatively easily be gotten at even level 1. The Amulet of Levitating in particular just requires you to talk to some people. First, you'll need to travel an area, so there may be some enemies in the way that you will have to deal with, either by running away or by using invisibility or by fighting them. The other problem is that you need levitation in order to reach the quest giver. But 2 potions of levitating should be enough. Then there's also scrolls and potions. If you've played Morrowind for a while, I'm sure you're aware of the scroll that gives you a large magnitude of levitation and also invisibility. With it, you can reach pretty much any destination on the map very quickly and without being bothered by cliff races. Unless you accidentally cancel the invisibility. Potions of levitation unfortunately are limited. Once you buy them from each shop, they are gone for good. They don't restock. Or at least I'm not aware of any that do. Now let's talk about the cost of levitation. It is fairly high, unfortunately. 100 points of levitate for 1 second is 30 magica. However, this is mostly useless because 1 second is probably not enough. So how about the reverse? 1 point of levitation for 100 seconds. This costs 15 magica. This is very slow, but it could be of use. In fact, the wizard's staff just has 1 point of levitation as well, only it's for 120 seconds I think. Now how about if we speed it up a little? 10 points of levitation for 60 seconds is 91 magica. Personally, I think this is a bit much. If we increase the magnitude and decrease the duration and settle for 20 points for 30 seconds, that's 93 magica, which is even worse. Now 10 points of levitate for 30 seconds is 46 magica, which is still significant, especially for a low level character with low alteration skill. But it kinda approaches a reasonable cost, I think. Fortunately, the speed doesn't only depend on levitation magnitude, it also increases with the speed attribute. An easy way to get quick levitation is to just cast a spell with 1 point of magnitude, but also wear the boots of blinding speed. Now, levitation is not available in either Oblivion or Skyrim. Why is that? As far as I can tell, there are a couple of reasons. The first reason would be that cities in Oblivion and Skyrim are separate cells. You can only access a city interior with a loading screen, and then you can only return to the rest of the world with another loading screen. If you could see that the city doesn't actually exist until you've used the door, it would break the illusion. Now personally, I think that this could be easily salvageable by having you warned that you are not allowed to use levitation near cities and then you crash down if you get too close. Another reason would be that Todd doesn't want you to do his dungeons out of order. Oblivion, but especially Skyrim, has the looping dungeon design, where you enter the final area of the dungeon and there is a path back to the entrance. Using levitation you could skip to the final area straight away. Another reason, and one I perhaps suspect the most, is that adding levitation in Oblivion or Skyrim would mean that the devs would have to make levitation worth using. That would require changes to the design of dungeons and cities. You would have to add areas in cities that could only be reached using levitation. Devs would also have to add loot that could only be reached using levitation, otherwise levitation becomes just a gimmick. If you were to mod levitation in Skyrim right now, it would mostly be just that. And another reason why levitation was removed is because Todd just likes to remove things for the sake of removing things. Please recommend this video to your friends. And if you hated this video, please show it to your enemies. Now watch this video next. It's about the lock spell. Is lock any useful? Who knows? You certainly won't, not until you watch the video. Thanks for watching.